on my video I posted yesterday. I don't really know how to translate some of them though, because a lot of the comments I was getting, I was like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I actually think I've replied to every single comment on my page. But there's a whole lot of like, oh, the reason all this is going down is because of forward-facing sonar, and then other people are saying they're going out of business, and I mean, there's just so many different directions, and trying to decipher exactly what's going on is pretty darn difficult. I mean, because we're working with the exact same amount of knowledge everybody else has at this point.
Yeah, it is. It is funny. So I'm checking right now. My video yesterday has like 400 or 500 comments, and like of those 400 or 500 comments,
400.
I mean, it's it's well, yeah, but I also respond to a bunch of them. So it's
on your YouTube.
Yeah, from the video I put out yesterday afternoon, which is a ton of feedback. And the interesting thing is it's like 3 buckets. It's either MLF sucks, you got to leave them. It's forward-facing sonar killed it. That's why the numbers are down. Or it's just like pro fishermen suck. You guys need to stop complaining and just move on.
Those.
It's like one of those 3, and that's it.
I didn't have as many of the complaining ones about pro fishermen complain. I think I had 3 or 4 of them. I think I had 413 comments on mine as it sits right now. And I mean, it is kind of ridiculous. Like, I haven't ever had a video grow to that extent that quickly. And I mean, all I sat there was talked about. I mean, the deal is, I think it's bullcrap that the anglers, I mean, you're in a different spot, which is still crappy as it is. Yeah, Matt got screwed. That's the last comment that came in. The rookies, you know, when they qualify in, they're given 2 years on a typical standard of trying to requalify, try to stay in the DPT. And now they just basically said, hey, you got 1 year. Good luck. Let's see how it goes. Let's see what you do. And not only that, but you have all the guys that left Bassmaster and said, you know what, hey, and the thing is, a lot of people don't understand what actually went down in that situation. But these guys were given an extremely short window to make a decision. And they were working off of making decisions based off their families, not having to pay entry fees, all these big promises. And now they're like, hey, we got to go. Like, I don't have a choice, but I got to go. And then they're just screwed over. So, I mean, it's a lot of crap. Don't get me ranting. Sorry.
Let me ask you, Matt. I want to hear from your mouth. What do you have to do next year or the year after to stay qualified?
Yeah. Yeah, you know, just to jump back to what Andrew said real quick too. I mean, believe me, I feel like I've been put in a tough spot, but I also feel for all the anglers that you know, made the switch from bass over. You know, they were all told that if they could follow, you know, if they could meet the criteria to continue to stay qualified, they would be able to fish there forever. And, you know, every guy that's there right now that came over from Bassmaster 5 or 6 or whatever years ago it was, I mean, they've been performing just fine. They've performed great. And all of a sudden now it's, well, you guys changed your career path, but we're just cutting you to the side. So, I mean, it's a tough position. I feel like, you know, for me, to answer your question, Todd, what my understanding is this, and I feel pretty confident in saying it, that, you know, they're going to take the top 35 in Angler of the Year average, lifetime average, which they're only going to do BPT average, but part of me thinks they should consider lifetime average if they're truly trying to get the best anglers. I mean, some of these guys have fished for 20 years, so I think you could make a case to actually go outside of the BPT Angler of the Year standings average to go through their entire career. But that's a whole nother thing. So once they determine what the top 35 Angler of the Year averages are, the top 35 guys, they're going to then take the next 10 guys from the 2024 standings. So you would want to sit here and say it's going to be the top 45 guys from next year. That's not going to be how it is at all. You know, from my perspective, Boyd was very clear in the meeting that if you're a rookie, you cannot have an average. So therefore, you cannot qualify through the top 35, which I disagree with immensely. So he's saying then that any of the rookies have to be in the top 10 from the remaining 45 guys from the field for 2024 standings. So what that means, potentially, this is a possibility, is I could finish 11th and not qualify because the 10 guys in front of me are not in the top 35 in average. And when you're talking about guys that are at this caliber, any of them could pop an Angler of the Year title, that year. So to have multiple guys in the top 10 or top 20 that are not qualified for 2025 through the 35 Angler of the Year average spots, in my opinion, going in, I feel like if I don't have a top 20, I'm probably not getting in. I think it's realistic to say 10 out of the top 20 spots will not be qualified through the top 35.
I agree with that.
All right. I mean, do you really want me to go in right now?
Yeah, dude, dive into whatever. I mean, I'm sitting here. I put a video out yesterday. I'm not gonna sit here and like necessarily bash anything, but I definitely am not happy with the decisions that were made. I feel personally, I don't understand why we're having such a drastic cut in 2025. Like,
well,
why can't we weed out 10 guys over the course of 3 years? And as long as you're in the top 70, you get, or the top 70 and the top 60, top 50.
Can't do that.
Why can't you do that?
Because that's no. Listen,
I know where Todd's going with this.
You can't do logical things. I
knew that's what was coming.
Can't do that. Do you really, like, my honest opinion? And like, I know a lot of the guys in the BPT. A lot of them are my friends. I'm about to go see one of them here in about 2 weeks. When I say this, I always say everything with a grain of salt, right? Do I feel sorry for anyone on the BPT? No. Any of those guys that are over there, I do not feel sorry for them. I know that's a harsh statement. And the only reason I don't feel sorry for them is the same reason I feel sorry for them, like on a that sucks. But also there's a part of me that's like, dude, I know those guys were in this industry way too long. They were with a guy. They were with people within the industry way too long. They were smarter than me. They had been in business with some of these guys. And when that all went down, and I can speak for these guys, when I can speak for Andrew, I can speak for Hallman, I can speak for me, Luke Duncan. When we left the tour, we did not leave because we left because of this. We were like, man, I do not trust them. And we said all this years ago, and a lot of people agreed, and then a lot of people came at us. A lot of people came at us hard. And I talked to Hallman yesterday, and he said, dude, looking back, it was still the best decision he ever made. No matter what, no matter, even if we had made the BPT and been there now, it doesn't matter that we were like, we called it. I knew what was going. The writing was on the wall that all this was going to happen. It sucks. And like, yes, there's a part of me that still feels bad, but I mean, it's just was, it's never going to end. If anyone thinks this is going to fix anything, they're wrong. Why they're doing it, I can't tell you. I mean, they're trying to float a sinking ship, and they're going to keep on changing until something sticks or it goes under. And if anyone thinks, dude, I listened to a meeting or two, and I sat in that meeting with almost laughing at the stuff they were saying to me. And a little bit of it was FLW, not Kathy Fennell or any of them, but there was another guy who worked there that every time he opened his mouth, I didn't listen to anything he had to say because he was just full of it anyways, and they got rid of him finally. And I don't care. I mean, everything he said was an absolute, to me, a salesman. So I don't care what anyone says about that guy. But yeah, I don't trust him. Any of them. No offense.
Yeah.
I think some of them have good intentions. I think some of them now some of the people that work for him, dude, I like a lot of those people. Like there's a lot of people from MLF or FLW dude, those people are great. But they don't have control over this. I feel sorry for those. I mean, I feel sorry for everyone trying to do like taking people at their word. But man, you got to know when you get into it, like whatever is going on right now, today, it will not look like this in 2 years. Whatever they just told you on that meeting will not be the same in 2 to 3 years. It will change.
Well, I'm not even sure that, the press release is mostly about 2025. I'm not even sure that what they release will be that way by the end of 2024. I think there still could potentially be changes made. Todd, it's such I mean, you guys know, you're tournament anglers. I mean, we all have decisions to make. I think, early on, maybe you guys weren't even on the meeting, but I mean, one of the first meetings with MLF and FLW, as the decisions as to who would be brought up to BPT and all that, it was very clear to us that it was all based on who's got the biggest brands. And at that time, the guys who were remaining in the FLW tour did not have the big enough brands to qualify for BPT. That was what we were told. Whether that was true or not was, I can't say whether it was accurate or not. I think there were a lot of people that took that the wrong way and felt like, how can you judge who's got a bigger personal brand and how does that qualify you to fish the BPT? But so from that standpoint, like, we all had decisions to make. I don't disagree with the decisions that you guys made to go fish the opens. I don't disagree at this point even with the decision that I had to stay and fish what was the pro circuit and then invitationals and all that. I mean, we really have to choose what's best for our personal brands.
Absolutely.
And honestly, guys, all three of us, I think, are sitting here. We probably are better off now than we were a few years ago because of what happened. But that's because we developed our personal brand.
But we all agree. Yes.
Yeah. I'm just saying that at this point, when that happened, like, one of my thought processes was, what's the fastest way to get to the top level? The elites, the BPT. I can't say I really want to fish a classic. I can't necessarily say fishing the elites to me is any more exciting than fishing the BPT. My decision to stay with FLW was really geared at, it was more statistical. What are my chances of getting to the next level faster? Where can I do it faster? And I looked at it and said, hey, a lot of my stoutest competition, like you guys, are no longer there. I would much rather fish against guys that have never fished the FLW tour or a top level versus veterans like you guys who are there. So there was a lot of looking at all these different things in my decision at that point, because I didn't feel that necessarily like that strongly about fishing the elites, like that it was that much better than anything else. I really just decided to stick with MLF, and the payouts at that time were a lot better than what the Elite Series were doing. There were no entry fees. It was like, man, if you can get there, that's not a bad place to be. Now, I will also say part of that decision making was a lot of what you were just talking about, Todd. Like, I can't sit here and say, hey, I was 100% confident that they were going to be around in 10 years. And at that time, I felt like, yeah, you know what? In 5 or 10 years, I'd say there's probably a 75% chance that Major League Fishing will be a very good organization to be in. Right now, I'm sitting here going, I'd say it's probably the flip-flop. It's probably a 25% chance that Major League Fishing is going to be around in a few years. Based on all the changes I've seen done, I'm not privy to any numbers. This is just me sitting on the outside looking in going, maybe I really do need to start looking at where I'm fishing in terms of longevity in a couple of years. Because even if I get 2 or 3 years, even if I make the top 50 next year, fish for a year, maybe they go bankrupt at that point. Then what? Then I'm right back to fishing the opens or doing whatever. So it's almost like I mean, a lot of the anglers I've talked to are considering other options, even though they're qualified for the BPT right now because of issues like that. And I wish I had more clarity as to why did they take $1 million out of the 2024 purse? You know, why are entry fees potentially going up? I mean, there's a lot of concern there. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the smartest guy out there, but I mean, there's some writing on the wall that doesn't look good if you look at it from a business perspective. And I still sit here and say, I don't think I have a better option as an angler. I have to fish.
No.
I have to fish and try to make that top 50. If you make the top 50, you're in a good spot. But I definitely feel like my shot at qualifying is just been shrunk down a little bit based on the changes that they've made for next season in 2025.
Let me say something too, to your point of, let me explain some things too, that everything that I agree with you, that I want to make sure everyone knows. When that split happened, I 100% agree with you that staying on that was a better decision. Like, when I say a better decision, if you had the information in front of you and nothing was going to change, staying where you at was a better, smarter move. I would totally agree with you. I think it was a better way to get to the top. I thought it was going to be, I definitely thought I could make a top 10 in Angler of the Year and get to the BPT. I was already there. I was already like fishing I was set up to do that. So were you. Like, we were already there. We were already fishing the invitationals. We knew how it was going, or the tour, whatever it was. So with the information they gave you, I totally agree that I should have stayed as well. Me and Andrew, all of us should have stayed. Okay. That's just based on the information we knew about. That we were going to make more money, less entry fees from the year before. You could see that BPT was making more money than the guys on the elites. The elites had, they had just shrunk down, and then we're trying to build back up with anglers and stuff. And in your spot, there's a lot of guys, and I had like 2 conversations yesterday with guys that called me up that I hadn't talked to in a while, and we're talking about the invitationals, because they were like, man, what do we do now? Like, all these changes that they're making now, they're questioning on whether or not they should fish it. And I've told all of them, I'm like, hey, look, man, if you've got your entry fees paid for the invitationals and it's all done, I will never tell you not to go fish the invitationals. Like, I'll make some money fishing the invitationals if everything was paid for, because I think I'm going to make some checks, and if it's all just profit, no big deal. So like I said, and that's why I was very honest about the whole Costa thing, that if Costa hadn't have backed out of MLF, I was 100% staying with MLF that year, because it was all going to be taken care of. But then quite a few sponsors dropped out because maybe they saw the writing on the wall too. So yeah, I don't blame anyone for staying. We did get in some arguments over the fact of, like, with some people about how they thought it was going to move forward. And yeah, what Hallman always said this. His number one reason for leaving was this. He said, there is a clear pathway to the elites and to that blue trophy and to the classic. This was the pathway. And I'll be honest, it hasn't really changed. There's a little qualification change, but from last year, over 3 tournaments in the opens to all 9 of them, but the pathway was there. And and since then, it hasn't really changed much. Whereas I always said, there is no way, because at the time it was, you had to fish 2 years, make the top 10. And I'd laughed. I was like, ain't no way those guys that moved over, because half of the guys that moved over were invested in MLF and BPT. So I was like, they're not getting rid of those guys. Not yet. Not in that further. I mean, they're doing everything they could to protect some of those guys who honestly probably needed protection, because they're probably not going to be, after 5 years, they're not going to be around anymore from that day, which is about now. When I didn't trust that they had their 80 guys that they were locked in on. And that's when I always laughed at everyone. I'm like, man, there's these other 100 and something guys, all of us that fished the tour, that were not invited to either one of them. And I was like, I'm surprised the invitations lasted this long. I was almost, probably the one thing I was wrong on is I thought they would be done with. and they were trying to figure out any way possible to get rid of them and figure out a way to those 80 guys never lost their spot. And they did go one more year, right? They blamed it on COVID and all this stuff, but remember, it took 3 years before anyone got there. It didn't take 2, so I was already right about that. And then, I mean, a couple of them had to fight their way in because they tried to not. I think Dakota was one. He had to he had to fight his way through there because they weren't going to give him one of those spots. They were trying to figure out ways to like not let him in, you know. So
yeah, well, that's actually I'm well aware of that because that was actually the first time I qualified for BPT.
Like, yeah, I was gonna say
that's the thing. Like a lot of, I mean,
Matt, I agree with you. They had a lot of people and they're stuck, right? And they had them, dude. Tournament fishermen and organizations have been doing this for years, and they get you to where you're stuck and you can't. A lot of people don't want to pull that trigger and leave or move and start all over, whatever it might be, and some of these guys are still. They're like, man, I'm already here, and they're just stuck there. And I do feel bad because they don't want to leave because they're already. I feel bad for them in that sense, but I also was like, hey, man, you had to have seen this coming for some of them, and realize that like this was gonna happen. It was gonna happen from day one when they had that meeting, and I'm like, man, you do realize they don't care about fishermen. For once, I would just, if you take anything away from this entire video, they do not care about you. The organizations do not, it's not a big deal. It's business. There's nothing wrong with that. I agree with them. I don't care either. I don't care if they care about me. But if fishermen would just realize that and realize that they are not out there to help you further your career. They are just, they can use you and you can use them. But dude, at the end of the day, you are expendable. Every one of them. And I just wish some of those guys would, you can do with that information what you will, just understand it. Just know that that's what you're getting into when you're doing this. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, that's the thing. Like I get a lot of comments from people right now that are like, just jump ship, go to the opens, or MLF's not going to be around for a couple of years. And you know what you just said, Todd, is exactly how I evaluate where and what I'm going to be fishing each year. Since that whole merger of MLF FLW, when they were really clear in that meeting that it's all about brand, you know, I think the example of, you know, if Kevin Van Dam was on the chopping block, they would find a way to get him back in because his brand is too valuable to MLF. And it was a pretty eye-opening meeting. Even though I may not have agreed with it at the time, it really changed the way that I look at what I'm going to fish. I look at everything right now as my personal business. I am fully aware of the fact that both organizations out there see us as a number. As long as they fill their field, they don't care who it is. Ideally, they'd rather have their big names. But as long as they have a full field, they can run their marketing model because that's what it is. We are a marketing model. And from that standpoint, like when I go to choose what I'm going to do, like I look at it as a business. I realize that maybe it's a short-term business. Maybe I only get 2 or 3 years, but as a business to put money on the table, to represent my sponsors the best, to get the most exposure, MLF and FLW for me have been actually very good. Like I'm not sitting here knocking them. I'm sitting here saying, I just now look at it as I'm a personal business. I don't give a crap what anyone else is doing. I look at what's put out in front of me and I decide whether or not that's an option for me to do. And right now, fishing the BPT is still very clearly the best option. You know, I am not real happy that they took away the bottom 40 payout spots. I'm not happy with what they're saying for 2025, but I still feel confident I can go out there and fish hard and make it in there. But, you know, it really is it really, each angler needs to look at it as what's best for his brand / business. We cannot expect anything anymore from the organizations. I mean, yes, I think, you know, they can give us the good exposure. They can do all this, but you really
but
have
is the exposure good though? I mean, I want to clarify that. Like, I'm just circling back to what Todd said earlier. When we all kind of went our own directions, we all created our own brands. If anything happened from 2018, it was we all started realizing how much we needed to build ourselves up and not rely on everybody else. And so when I get exposure from, like, let's say Bassmaster or like in the day of FLW, if I would have had my own brand at that point, who cares what they'd have done? Because I'm gonna go 5 times over that with my own branding, just like you have, Matt. Like Todd and I've watched you ever since you started your YouTube stuff, and I'm not saying you don't need BPT, but they need you, and that's the difference. BPT needs you because you have such a big brand, and at this point, they need as many people with big brands as they can to stay afloat. Because the reality is the writing's on the wall at this point is BPT, and correct me if I'm wrong, but their most successful format in Major League Fishing history was their original format where they had 6 anglers on a body of water and they chased them around with a camera, and they were super successful. I watched those shows. I'm assuming you probably watched quite a few of those shows. And the greed, in my opinion, the greed got to them a little bit, and they said, hey, we can make this thing so much bigger. And once they realize, hey, we got it to this size and it's not successful now, we're going to take it back down. I would be willing to bet in the next 4 years, you see it back down to the original size. The FLW Tour, as we used to know it, is back in operation. And the same 25 guys or however many fish the Major League Fishing stuff will be back on the FLW Tour. And it will be one just basically they just switched everything around, renamed things. And here we are again where we were 5 years ago. I mean, and it's unfortunate for people like you because you have worked so hard to build your brand up and get it to such a high place. At this point, they got to have guys like you that have what you got.
In an ideal world, we absolutely should be working hand in hand. Like that is how all of our businesses are going to grow. The reality is, I mean, to me, the decision to cut to 50 guys is a pretty clear move on their part. I mean, maybe there was discussion with the anglers and I wasn't privy to it because I wasn't qualified yet, but my understanding is this is something that, the company, Major League Fishing, decided to make. They didn't really take the input, which tells me they don't really care what brands are getting cut. They just need to cut it down to a certain size, and from that standpoint, they're fine with it. It wouldn't surprise me from their standpoint if they're like, heck, right now we'd be happy with any 50 of these 80 guys. Now, I think you could argue some have more value and some don't, but I can't control that. I can't control anything they're doing. And like we all have said, I mean, in the past, there's been enough things that have been told to us that have changed over the time that I can't really trust anything that's said. I'm making decisions that's best for my personal business, and that's all I can do. And I am very fortunate at this point to have, to gotten to the point where I feel like tournaments are just a piece of the puzzle. They go into the content development, they go into core tackle, they go into whatever. Like, it's all part of the puzzle. So if the tournaments went away, I don't, would that kill me? I'd like to think it wouldn't, but I don't want to give up tournaments either. But I also don't want to fish tournaments where I know I'm going to lose money.
Well, I had that exact conversation with my wife last night because she was like, she didn't realize that I did the video yesterday. And I was like, hey, it's my best video I've ever done as far as fastest growth video. And she's like, what did you say? And I told her, and she's like, well, there goes any chance you ever fish an MLF. I was like, I wasn't going to go fish over there anyway. She's like, have you really thought about not fishing tournaments anymore? She's like, you really don't have to. You kind of do it. And I just, whatever, I do it. Honestly, at this point, I do tournaments so I can travel across the country. I'll shoot 3 or 4 or 5 TV shows when I cross the country, and it, helps pay for itself, so it's whatever. But, and it helps me stay sharp on top of everything, whatever. But no, I agree. I mean, we're just not in the same boat. Todd's not in the same boat. Todd fishes locally more so than anything now and dominates here. I mean, it's just a different world now.
I will say this, that I think I think that I think going to 50. I've always said going to 50 is better. I've always said that. I've always said there's too many. I think too many professional fishermen hurt the actual professional fishermen.
Yeah.
If you want to call them professionals, whatever, there's a big deal about it. But I'm saying it hurts those guys, I think. So if I always wanted it to be less people up there, because you're like Matt, you're going to get more time with less people up there if you can hold on. So it's kind of like one of those things. I think if you're there, you're going to be better off. I think now though, it's going to be harder than ever and worse, because when you start taking those 50 guys and the 30 guy or whoever who doesn't make it, and then everyone's trying to qualify here and there, and the qualifying systems aren't there to make money. I definitely think it turns into more of a rich man's. Before you could qualify and get by, it's almost impossible now without a whole bunch of money behind you. So,
Yeah, I mean, we sat here last week and talked about how we each thought we'd be better off with one major circuit, like for the sport. You know, I personally think it would be in a better position if there was one major circuit. So I'm not even going to sit here and argue. I mean, I think a smaller field, if you can make that smaller field, it is definitely more lucrative. It should be. The idea is that it's more lucrative. I just am not a fan of how we're narrowing down to that right now. I think there's a much better way we could have gone and done that. But I would bet you if you talk to the majority of the professional anglers out there, they would all agree that, yeah, the smaller circuits should probably be better.
They agree until the cut comes.
Yeah.
And so I don't know who I talked to the other day, but like, who was I talking to? It was yesterday. I made a point that we were talking about like forward-facing sonar, live scope, and we're talking about some other things. And we got talking about, like, I hate to say it, but and I don't know if people think I'm old or young or whatever. I don't even know where I fit. Am I old?
Yeah.
Well, it seems like when I fish, like the way they bring it up, when you make a top 10 and there's a whole bunch of live scopers, you're old. What they say, someone said something about Ben Milliken being the old man in the group that qualified for the elites, and he's 34, or something like that. I think that's what I heard. So, yeah, what I would say to that is the old guys don't want to have it come down to the rankings. That's why MLF started the way they did. They were trying to, I mean, everyone says it. They were trying to protect those guys, a lot of them, and they tried to protect them as long as possible. And it's getting younger and younger and younger. I think, I don't care what anyone says, good or bad, and I don't hate live scope, so it doesn't matter to me. I think live scope is changing that. What I was telling a buddy is that like, it's kind of shame on all them old timers that didn't go out there and learn live scope. And I say that because I have to go learn everything if you fish around the house or if you fish around like what I'm doing, because so much of my income is based off tournament wins, or like not wins, but like the money I win from tournaments. That's my whole life has always been like that. It's I still make more money off tournament winnings than I will doing anything else. So that was back when I was 21, and nothing's changed since I'm 44. So I don't have 44? This. Yeah, no. So I don't have this luxury of having a bad year. Like I've in 24 years, I haven't had I've definitely never lost, but I'm like, I have to make quite a bit of money to like fish the next year. And so no matter what it is, I have to I better go out there and learn something, and I better keep staying on top. And I think some of these older guys said, oh, I'll just get by with what I know. And so fishing the way I have has made me adjust and learn and do things and try to stay up there. Because if not, I'll get left behind. And I don't have that luxury of relying on a sponsor to pay me, and it doesn't matter how good I do. So I think the reason I bring all that up is that when I made another angler of the year, I could just be like, hey, I'm on the Toyota series. I won Angler of the Year back in 2010. And then again in 2000, whatever, 12 or 13, and be like, my stats should keep me here. And I'm like, no, I had to go win another one this time just because I wanted to make sure sponsors and everyone else know, like, hey, man, I haven't lost it. Like, I'm still out there performing. And so I don't know. I just think some of those guys got comfortable and they didn't.
Well, of course, because they got comfortable because they were told they could get comfortable.
I know. So
I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I
you
don't
want to
feel
talk
that
about
sorry.
really screwing some guys over? Be like, hey, you know what? Just come over. We got you. We're going to do our best to keep you in, but you still got to catch them a little bit. You got to finish 70th instead of 80th. Like you got to do okay. And they're surviving, and they get these sponsor deals, and they're surviving. They're putting food on the table, and then all of a sudden this news comes, and they're like, oh, crap, here we go. And what it's going to do is it's going to force anglers to say, okay, do I start over completely? Because that's what they're going to have to do. Either start over completely, either in a new, whether it be the Opens or the NPFL, or they're going to have to downgrade to the invitationals and just go that route. And I'm going to tell you right now, there is a big difference in money in comparison to fishing, especially if you're just an angler. And I'm not saying an influencer or anything like that, but as an angler, there's a big difference between sponsoring an angler on BPT than there is on the invitationals or the Opens or the Toyotas or anything like that. A huge difference. So the reality is, if you don't have a media platform like Matt does, you're in kind of a bad spot, truly. If you don't requalify for the Bass Pro Tour, you're talking thousands, and I'm not going to say hundreds of thousands because fishermen don't make as much money as everybody thinks they do, but thousands and thousands of dollars to a point where they might even have to actually go get a real job. Some of them already probably do, but have to get a real job and just stop fishing altogether because it just doesn't make financial sense. I do think you're going to see more people retire than what people realize. I think there's going to be quite a few just hang it up completely and be like, hey, I'm done with this whole situation. And I can't say I blame them.
You'd be starting completely back over from zero. That's the thing. Like so many of these guys that have had great careers in the sport. I can't speak for anyone, but I agree with you, Andrew. I think you'll see I think a lot of guys will flood to the Opens probably, and potentially maybe the invitationals, but pretty much the Opens. But I think a bunch of those guys are just going to say, I'm not doing this. And hang
they're going to leave the organization. And that's my real big spot there. I mean, don't get me wrong, you're going to have some homers, and I don't want to call them homers like as a bad term. Some that truly think that they can requalify back to the, Bass Pro Tour or whatever. But you're going to have way more just completely leave the organization and roll out somewhere else.
Dude, if NPFL freaking got their stuff together, they could make a small dent in this thing. If when I say get their stuff together, if they just got their, I guess I can say it, they just got their stuff together, they could pull some people.
Well, yeah.
Do you think either organization should do the no forward facing sonar? Like, is this a time to potentially grab some people?
But totally selfish for me. Totally selfish. Like a totally selfish reason, dude. Like I will say this right now. Whenever they do this for the first tournament, look at Andrew sweating. Dude, I will be on live all day long. And I hope we do the Bassmaster. If it's one organization, me and Andrew Andrew does the open pick'em thing. I will be right there. And I will for all the, okay, God, so let me go down this rabbit hole. For all the people that ever say, oh, the guys that could catch them before can catch them with, and it doesn't help these guys. I'm calling every one of those guys idiots. Anyone that says LiveScope hasn't changed the entire face of fishing and that there were guys that only LiveScope now and they would never catch them, I'm going to be there in that tournament and I'm going to be like, dude, I'm going to be pointing at those guys going, catch them. I want to see you catch them without that thing on, is all I'm going to say. Because they always bring up guys like Jacob Wheeler. And I'm like, Jacob Wheeler was already the best fisherman in the world. And he's probably the best live scoper maybe in the world. So he just evolved with it all. It hit him when he was at Kevin Van Dam. if he was like 25 or 28 when Live Scope came out, he'd still be the best one, right? But there are guys, I guarantee you, Kevin would have adapted and learned that thing instantly, right? He just would have.
Hey, Todd, wait a second. I got to share some news real quick I just got. I'm not going to share who told me what.
Well, hold on.
I'm telling you, you want to hear this.
Okay.
I'm not going to say who sent it. He's a professional angler. He said he's watching right now.
Uh-huh.
Not sure that you're aware, but the understanding is that for 2025 to qualify for, and we'll circle back to the live scope thing.
Okay.
But for 2025, qualifying criteria allows an angler to have a drop every 3 years. So they get to drop a whole season to bump up their average if they've been in it longer, so they're actually allowing that.
Yeah.
So if you want to know about padding or trying to get the original OGs in there,
there it is.
100. There it is.
It's always
you had
there.
one bad year, you're out. Hey, that one's good. We'll forget that one where you finished last place in the points.
That little segment of line is all the way at the bottom of the 42 pages that you have to read that no one gets to. But that's not even breaking news. That's something that I'm like, well, I would just be looking for that because that's obvious stuff that they would do. I'm used to that.
But that is how they're going to do it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And they're messing. They're messing up. Well, I'll get back to that. But I want to be there. I want them selfishly, Matt, to not let them use live scope. Just one event, and just go catch them. And I want to sit there and go and just point at all the guys who are so reliant on it and be like, because if they ever did it where they did like half of them, because some guys are like, oh, it was just one event, it doesn't matter. And I'm like, I'm just telling you, man, there's so much going on right now and we can't talk about it all, but like that would be a big one. I would love it. I would sit back and just.
I just feel like right now, after the news came out on Tuesday, we just finished our meeting. We had a 4:00 hour and a half long phone call to go over everything. I mean, they must have issued like a press release at the same time or something. Because I went to share my YouTube video and it was like everything just was MLF news release. And, it just seems like it hits home when you look at it. It's so negative. The general public, it's like, there's so many comments where people are like, man, I really like MLF, but they keep doing this and I keep losing my interest. Right. And I just feel like they have to do something to regain some of those fans at this point, because, when this negative news just keeps piling out, it's like, yeah, I think the fans take a big brunt of this too, whether it's changing of, the formats or whether it's, they just don't agree with the decisions that are being made. But I feel like there's a lot of fans that are being pushed away by the moves that they're making as well. And I feel, whether you're for or against forward-facing sonar, I do feel like at this point, if MLF banned it or MPFL banned it, you would probably grab a pretty good portion of fans that may not have been fans before that are going to come support you because of it. And, it's one thing, like I know all the anglers, the BPT anglers, a good portion of them are upset right now. I just wonder if the organization recognizes how negative the overall fan base is based on these decisions being made too. Because honestly, they're the ones that are going to drive the dollars. Like if they're looking for views and they're pushing away way more fans than they are anglers right now, that's going to be their biggest headache in the future.
Well, so one thing about it, like I would love to say that MPFL would do exactly what you're saying, because honestly, Bass has already made their stance and I think they're not going to change. But I did see a post by MPFL the other day when they did some like talk with Duncan and one of the owners, and they're talking about bringing the A-Rig back. I honestly believe MPFL is more likely to go the opposite direction and go all in on it, because they've realized the camera angles and all that stuff. They actually incorporated forward-facing sonar into all their camera angles now before everybody else has, like for every brand, not just Humminbird or not just Garmin or anybody else. Like they're doing it for everyone. I completely agree. If you want to be different, if you want to attract the eyes, at the same time, I don't know how many eyes, and it's no offense to NPFL, how many extra eyes they're going to attract, because not as many people know they exist at this point. Mm-hmm. You know, if a Bass was to do it, like Bassmaster at Major League Fishing said, hey, you know what? No more forward-facing sonar. You would see an absolute enormous amount of people flock to one or the other. Mm-hmm. And I'm not to say that Bass doesn't change their mind halfway through the season after creating this committee and saying, hey, we're done with it. We're not using it the rest of the season. It would not shock me one bit at all if they just halfway through the season said, oh, no more. And it wouldn't be a bad thing. I know that there was a lot of discussions in-house about having specific events where you didn't use it. I know one particular one that I was told by an Elite Series angler that won't be named, that one thing that they were going to do is take them to Champlain and not allow them to weigh in a smallmouth and have them only weigh in largemouth. That way they could help eliminate the forward-facing sonar without technically eliminating forward-facing sonar. And I would watch that event. I would watch a largemouth only tournament at Champlain. That'd be a lot of fun.
That would be fun.
But I think there's ways to be really creative here. And quite honestly, I haven't seen Bass nor MLF be creative enough to make it worthwhile. If they really want to be creative beyond just forward-facing sonar, don't get me wrong. There's guys out there that hate it, and they swear up and down. It's like watching paint dry. We've heard every single excuse as to why they don't watch it.
And it's true.
But the reality is of why they're not watching and not staying tuned is because live lasts so long. The problem with fans, and this is all fans of any sport, is they always want more, more, more. When Bassmaster had their original TV show, everybody loved it. It was 1 hour long. It was the highlights through the day. It was the coolest show on TV. Well, what they did is they went to Bass and said, hey, we want more coverage. We want more, more, more. Well, what does Bass do? They come out with this huge live broadcasting of fishing. Well, fishing is boring as crap. It is the most boring sport if you're sitting there just watching it all day long. I can only listen to Todd Castledine talk so much before I get really bored. You know, I mean, what do you expect? Of course, guys are going to be looking down at their electronics probably most of the day. Most of us do it every single day. So to pretend like it doesn't happen or doesn't exist, it's because live is so long. If an organization wanted to make a dent, they cut their live in half. And they take the highlights from before the live and after, or like during the live, and they don't show forward-facing sonar. I mean, if that's the real big problem there, and they just show highlights and they really don't show as many commercials and they put a lot more emphasis into the fishing aspect of things, I think you would have more success. But that's just one marketing guy that looks from the outside looking in. But
fishing can be boring. Personalities can change that for sure. I always said you're not going to get any personality with a guy staring down at your graph. And listen, when I say all this, I don't blame him. Like if like when I live scope, yeah, I'm not talking, I'm not looking anything, like you're studying what's going on. So I don't blame any of this. I always say that's a little bit of the issue. The thing about all this is, and I assume YouTube, us three on here being on YouTube have learned, we don't have to talk about it because it's a lot there, but we have learned what people want on YouTube. And it comes and it's all over the place, right? So Andrew does one of his best videos ever. It has nothing to do with fishing. It's the drama of what went down. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's what we're talking about. We haven't once talked about a fish biting a bait today. Right. And so a lot of it is, and I said this kind of like what Andrew said, I mentioned along in another video about how Bass, when they first started doing, no one knew what was going on in live, right? So you were tuned in to see the drama take place through their TV show and who won and how it all went down. And you were able to make that drama. MLF did have some drama on the whole who's in and out with the last catches, last second, and the top 20, right? But there was no drama to who won. It's really more or less in that. I think that's why they're going back to that drama. But then there's a whole other group that don't care anything about that, and they just want to learn. And I think at times people are starting to realize that you're not going to learn a whole lot from watching tournament fishing. Because if you do tip videos or you do these on YouTube's, like, they're not explaining how certain things work. And we dive really deep into those details about how to, like, rig a bait, fish this thing, what we're looking for on the graph, all this stuff. None of that happens on live. Like, they're out there, and nor should it. Those guys are trying to go catch a fish and win money. So, like, their first thought isn't going, and I'm sorry if you guys don't realize this, their first thought is not y'all going, how do I explain to the fans watching what's going on? They're sitting there like, how do I catch another fish and win $100,000? And so you have to figure that all out within how you're going to approach what fishing is, because I've always said this, in every other sport, we're not watching football going, man, did you see how they lined up on that play so we can go run that out in our backyard in our flag football? You know what I'm saying? Like, no, we don't watch sports trying to learn stuff. We watch it for the entertainment. But we just said fishing's kind of boring, or it can be boring. And so you either have to figure out how to get drama in there, and FLW's or MLF's done a great job of getting drama, not in a great way. And let me tell you something. I brought this up. I was going to bring this up too. If they go down to 50 and there's all this, they don't need extra pressure to, like, do the wrong thing. And y'all know where I'm going with this. But, oh yeah. Cause, like, whatever you think about bending the rules and trying to make sure you don't get cut, dude, it's about to go down. Because there's so much stuff that goes on those tournaments that we can't ever talk about, like stuff that happened in the opens that we know of, that if people actually, that's a whole nother deal that we can get into. But I'm telling you, it ain't stopping.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say guys are going to be cheating, but it's going to be cutthroat. I mean, it's going to be straight up cutthroat. There's going to be guys pulling up on guys, and it's Todd, I agree with a lot of what you just said, but the one thing I will say that I've learned most from YouTube is that the tournament fishing world, it's tiny.
Yes,
it is tiny. So, like, the majority of people that are watching, say, my videos to learn something, hopefully that's why they're watching them, is they're not into tournament fishing. So, like, when you're trying to grow live coverage or these organizations with a small number of people that are into tournament bass fishing, like, the fishing market, huge. Tournament bass fishing world, not real big. And that's the issue. Like, how do you increase that fan base to a point where it justifies TV deals and blah, blah, blah? Like, it's just, I don't have the answer for that. I'm just saying, like, it is such a small niche market within the fishing realm.
Hey, Todd, I got a text from Hackney. He said you suck, by the way. Just
that's all right.
Giving you a heads up on that.
That's because I didn't invite him on the show.
Probably. He probably didn't want no part of this show right now.
No, we're gonna do one in a couple of weeks. I was gonna do one with him when he went down to Florida, but he was going down there to fish an open in Florida. And I'm like, why? He's like, apparently I'm supposed to be fishing more. That's what he told me.
I've got Big Mac calling me right now. This is how it's been for 2 days. Just
Who's that?
nonstop. Brandon McMillan.
Oh God, right. What does he want?
Just like, but it's nonstop anglers, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Just text. And I actually, after the Major League Fishing meeting, during that, I got a text from a sponsor who said, we're having an all-team meeting right after, the MLF meeting's over. So then that was like an hour-long phone call. And then, like, you know, at that point it was like 7 o'clock and I had like 35 messages and texts. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything tonight. Like, I had a headache at that point. I'm like, I'm not even looking at this stuff. So I had to zone out. But I mean, for the last couple of days, it's been nonstop. Just
see that comment right there is wrong.
I know.
100% wrong.
That's why I put it on there.
If they ban forward-facing Sonar, you probably won't have Garmin, Lowrance, or Humminbird to sponsor. That is
Let me tell you
not
something.
relevant.
Yeah, I told the people at Garmin this. If they ban live scope or anything, it will not affect them 0.0001% at all. Because the thing is they're banning it because it's that good.
Yeah.
So if anyone ever thought that it's why it's so, like, you can hate it or not, it's irrelevant to me. I don't care if you hate it and never want to use it again, or use it ever. But you hate it because it's good, and it's not going away just because 100 guys on TV aren't allowed to use it. Because everyone else is like, if they ever get a hold of it or see it or catch one fit, do it, whatever it is. They're hooked on it. They'll use it. They won't use it. I'm not saying you'll use it all the time, but I promise you, I know this. Forget bass fishing. If you are I will never get in a boat ever with anyone that ever asked me to go crappie fishing if they didn't have that thing on their boat. I'm like, you're crazy. I mean, I just got out there 3 days ago and just stroked on crappie, dude. I was supposed to be out there bass fishing, and I was like practicing, like goofing around, learning stuff. I got to just catching crappie almost the whole day and had a blast. But I'm just telling you, like, no, YouTube's out there. No one's going. Here's the thing: if you want to learn about live scope, no one's watching bass tournaments to learn about it. They'll go on YouTube and learn anything they ever want to know.
Well, no, you can't say that. I think some people watch live to learn about bass fishing.
I'm not saying they don't learn.
They want to learn how people make decisions, and you can't learn decision making in watching YouTube.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they might learn something from it, but if they really want to go hear about it, and like no one's on Bassmaster during the tournament talking about live scope and like in certain situations, like they're not like telling you about.
Yeah, but are you doing that?
What?
Do you do video like that? Because I don't know many pros that would actually spill the beans when it comes to.
I didn't say pros.
Well, then how are they going to go find a YouTube video on it?
Oh, there's plenty of YouTube videos.
Oh, come on, Todd.
There is.
Come on.
There's enough.
Hey, how about a really good video on a hybrid hunter, like an actual real video on a hybrid hunter and how good it is and how to use it?
I just throw it.
Huh?
Throw it.
Oh, come on, Todd.
I just throw it.
You know what I'm saying though? Like, it's
hard to catch fish on something you don't
never talk about.
It's hard to catch fish on something you don't throw.
You don't throw it?
No, I do. That's why I catch freaking. I put 2 videos on it this year catching 10-pounders.
I was there whenever you caught one of the 10-pounders on it.
Yeah. It's because I threw it, and then everyone comes up and like, man, I had that tied on. I just didn't throw it. I'm like, okay, well, I can't make you go throw it. Whatever.
The best comment that I got on my video.
Hey, by the way, real quick, if anyone's go back of all the lives of everything I've ever done, if there's some gem comments in here, like there's some comments that even for me, I can't even put up there on this. There's so, like some of them are freaking phenomenal. I'm just saying. Like I've laughed a couple of times while y'all were talking. It's great.
Oh no, I mean it's been nonstop. Honestly, all I've been doing is reading through the comments, and some of them are fantastic.
Oh, some of them are, but I can't put them on there because like I don't know if I'll get in trouble. I don't know. I'm just.
Well, some of them you don't want to put on there.
Well, I want to put them on there badly, but I'm trying to. The
one comment that I got on my video from yesterday that was hilarious, and it was from the anti-forward-facing Sonar people, and it's fine. I get it. It's unbelievable. It's great. It's amazing. Like whatever. Was the ones that said, "Hey, that cut on Bass Pro Tour going from 80 to 50, that's needed because we don't need that much pressure on our lakes." And I'm like, you realize that 30 guys out of one tournament on your body of water is not going to, you won't even notice whatsoever if it had any effect on the body of water that you're on. If you want to make a real difference, you got to start banning at the local level, because that is where 99.999% of the pressure comes from, on top of maybe BFLs, your local tournaments, your more regional tournaments, your national professional, like your national level tournaments. I mean, you're talking hardly any effect whatsoever. I mean, we're there for 1 week. Even the opens, we have 225 guys. We're there for a week, and we demolish it for a week. We hit it pretty hard. But after that, like, the fishery comes right back. Everything's good.
I
watched that video.
I don't
There's a
want
video of it.
Well, he's interviewed about it.
No.
I would say I'm about to like piss off a bunch of people when I say this. I'd say of all the comments of any social media, whether it be YouTube, but any of this stuff, I think if people talk about baits and doing certain techniques, like, dude, the fishermen that are calling today is pretty funny. All that stuff, like, I don't, if someone is like, hey man, I like to throw this bait at this time, and if it's a different strategy than mine, like zero care. The one thing that makes me mad is that when people talk about the fishing, like whether it be fishing pressure or like what damages a lake and things like all these environmental scientists out here that like have 0 degrees, right? And have never studied anything else in their life. And all they do is they're like, I heard this somewhere, it sounds good, and I'm going to repeat it. Those are probably the ones that make me more mad than any of them, because they have less than 0% knowledge about what's going on. I'm not saying I do, but I, like most old timers or any of us, like, we go to these lakes, we kind of see what's going on. Almost none of it hurts the lake. And whether it's like catching a fish off of a bed or like having tournaments and all this stuff, like whenever I get into the spawning stuff, it's just like one guy to this day, he freaking commented on my page again. He's like, we could eliminate all this by not going to lakes where they're spawning. And I'm going, I just go, they had an MLF tournament where Cayuga, where it all went down, like all the freaking bad stuff went down, and it was all this sight fishing. When you talk to those people, not those guys that were doing that, but the people who were at that event, they were like, yeah, there was like 25 fish spawning in that event, like on the entire lake for like the time they were there. Do they think that's the only 25 fish in the lake? There was probably like 2 million of them that weren't spawning, and they were there a week. So they might have interfered with 25 fish spawning. And you think that hurt the lake? Absolutely not. I just, like I could go on and on about that, but that's the comments that make me, and I'm sure some guys will comment on here, but they have zero clue. Almost, I'll be honest, probably no one even in the country really knows. I mean, they're not out there keeping tabs of this stuff and like researching it. Bass keep on freaking figuring out how to live.
You got to comment on there. You got to read it.
Well, God dang it. And once I get to talking, it takes me forever to go through all the comments. Y'all got to go.
Is it the Brett Height comment?
Yes, it's so good.
That's the one I
No.
Brett Height. Is there more?
No, there's a better Brett Height comment.
Okay.
That was a good one. I'm not gonna lie. I had to take a picture of that one just so I'd have that one in my memory bank.
Let me get down there to it.
But hey, the Brett Height thing. So I watched a video yesterday. He was at the U.S. Open, day 1 of the U.S. Open. He's running down the lake, full speed, 70 plus miles an hour, and one of those brown seagulls swooped down and hit him in the side of the face.
Whew.
And like basically knocked him out, and he had to go to the hospital. Like there was blood everywhere. Didn't know if it was his blood or the bird's blood. Like just it was chaotic. And I don't even think he finished the tournament, honestly. But
dude, I got hit in the face by one of them little swallows. They're down like dive bombing.
Yeah.
Running full bore. It felt like I got hit with a baseball. Like, I mean, I came off pad, and I mean, it was like I saw stars, dude.
Well, that's what he said. He said he felt like he got hit in the face by a baseball bat. And I can only imagine. I mean, your 70-mile-an-hour fastball coming to your face. And Hackney probably did see Bigfoot on his way to the alien convention.
I had like 25 people send me Hackney's Bigfoot photos and videos. I was a little disappointed.
Oh yeah. We're gonna have a conversation with Hackney about his obsession with Bigfoot and aliens.
Aliens?
Dude, yes, Todd. He's big alien.
He must not talk about that to me because I'll freaking light him up.
I mean, he's Rogan, 100%.
Dude, he's from Arkansas, really, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm going through it.
You still haven't found that?
Dude, I'm 7 minutes behind.
I'll send it to you. It's fantastic.
I'll get there.
There you go. I mean, I found it again. It's at the
because you know where to look. I'm at.
What do you mean?
Dude, I've been scrolling and I've gone 1 minute. Like they're freaking.
Goodness gracious! Look at the 102 mark.
Hey, I don't like. Hey, dang it, Mitch! I thought I was trying to be sneaky.
Oh no, I 100% can tell where Todd's fishing sometimes. There's no question.
Well, usually I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, he was talking about aliens on the Bilge podcast with Zaldane, is what he was.
I did a Bass Talk Live episode about Bigfoot and aliens. It was myself, Polinick, and Miles Berghoff.
So
crazy stuff.
What did Polinick say? I'm curious to see. Did he believe? Was he a believer?
I mean, I don't know if he said it directly or not, but he basically said he found a UFO at the bottom of Lake Huron with a side imaging. And he said there was a hole right in the middle of it, and you could drop your bait down it, and it would just spool your line.
What?
Yeah. You have to go back and listen to it. A giant saucer he found out in the middle of nowhere. It was interesting.
That is pretty interesting. Todd, say how on live they don't go. Why couldn't they make that part of the live coverage? Because that all has to do with the angler. Like the angler.
Why should they?
Well, I mean, I would, but
why? What do you gain from it? I'm being honest. Like guys might not want to hear this, but like I know it sounds like, hey, if they did this, it would be great. But then the guy's sitting here going, I'm about to win $100,000 by this technique I've got, and y'all really can't see what I'm doing. Why would I tell y'all? I'm just being honest. Like it benefits them zero to make that public on what they're doing. I'm telling you, I always used to laugh at I think guys weren't being dishonest. We just now know with LiveScope that they had zero clue what was going on. But I always love, if you go back and watch anything from the last 20 years about guys on live while they're talking about how they're catching fish and what's going on underneath the water, they're pretty much 99% of them were wrong. Because you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so they were
100%.
just saying what sounded good. I always laugh when we'll have some team trail stuff going on around here and it'll be on TV and some guy will be fishing a brush pile and they'll start talking about bait and this and all this stuff that goes along with it. And I just shake my head and I'm sure people are listening like, that's good info. And I'm like, there's 400 brush piles around there. That's the hot one. It's just the better one. There's bait around the other 399 other ones, but they're just on that one. It's just the better brush pile. We don't have to listen to this big discourse on all this stuff. It's just a better brush pile. That's all it is, plain and simple. And so a lot, like I said,
but Todd, how do you know? Maybe they dropped some crawfish in the middle of it and made it.
They were also catching like 12 pounds, and they finished like 86th in the event. So it really didn't matter. I'm just saying they went in this big talk. They're on TV and they say all these things, and I'm just sitting here like, it'd probably be. That's why sometimes me and Russell just freaking. They get so mad at us when they ask us questions because we're like, and a lot of it's freaking Jared. And I just shake my head at him, and I'm like,
he called me earlier.
I'm like, that's a stupid question, Jared. And he laughs, and we all laugh, and then we go off about making fun of someone because we're just out there fishing, having fun.
That's what you do, just make fun of people, big bully. Just a big boy.
Well, the guys we know, like, you know, Russell Lee and freaking Sasquatch. We have our own Sasquatch. Russell Lee's partner. I'm not even going to say his name just to piss him off. He probably doesn't even know how to use the internet.
Oh, goodness.
Is that what it? Is that what it?
Yes.
I didn't even read it until I just clicked on it. Dude, these guys are great.
Yep.
These guys are great. It just took me that long.
I literally sent it to you, Todd.
Oh, I didn't, man. Dude, my phone's going nuts, man. I don't know what's going on today.
Well, it's because we're on live. That's what's going on.
I know, but like, yeah. There's so many. See, I can't. These are so good. What else you got going on, Matt?
I'm just enjoying the comments as well, guys.
Oh, like some of them are so good. I guess I should just start putting some of them on there.
I mean, you put that one on there. You might as well put all of them on there.
Well, that one's kind of a joke, I think. Either way, it's funny. I've never talked to Brett Hyde. I don't know him, so I don't feel that bad. I'm not making fun of him. That was a funny one, dude. What are you talking about?
Hilarious.
That's not even what do you say? What do you really say? Must have been really nice guy in church. Man, that's a compliment. What are you talking about?
From what my sister says.
That's so good.
Oh.
Oh, hey, okay. Hey, let's get into some.
What
I don't really
affected by the most.
What does that mean?
I don't know what that means.
Like in a good way or bad way?
I just heard that like hard baits and spinnerbait sales are like absolutely terrible, and then soft plastics, anything like forward facing sonar related are doing really well, but they're blaming, like, I forget who I was talking to. It was somebody in the industry, and they were like, well, we can't 100% say that it's forward facing sonar related, but the correlation is like almost 100%. And like hard baits and spinner baits or wire baits are really in the stink hole right now.
Well, and that's kind of to be expected a little bit. I mean, it's I know I've had a few conversations with a few sponsors, and they're saying the exact same thing, and you're seeing a kind of a trend change on more finesse baits being offered, more jigs, more bottom presentation jigs, not swim jigs, and more jig heads, swim bait heads, you know, your core tackle hover rig head. I mean, a bunch of different things are really starting to be the trend. I think it's awesome. I get a lot of emails of what's trending because I follow like I'm subscribed to like Bass Blaster, Best on Tour, and they're always sending out like, oh, this is the new trend on forward facing sonar, and this is this and this is that. I'm like, guys, I've already spent so much money on tackle, I can't buy nothing else.
So yeah, one he got one serious one. This is the best one for me. Like, I show all my tournament footage of me using, like, I actually make tournament footage. Like, I'm the one, like, we're the one guys that when we show our tournament footage, we can't lie about it. So like, like you see us, like, here's what we did. And then I don't even show them what we did. I don't have to like, hey, I caught him on a swim jig. No, you saw in the tournament.
No, see, it's funny because like Todd is the easiest person in the world to figure out what he's doing because I've known Todd for a really long time. He's either throwing a structure jig, he's either got it trimmed up or full, whatever. He's going to throw a swim jig. He's going to throw a hybrid hunter. He's going to throw a sexy dog hard knot. He'll throw a drop shot some. And
you're saying a whole bunch of stuff.
And then it throw like a swim
bait. Very versatile.
No, his best is a jig head, a squadron head with a 3.75 inch rage swimmer. Hands down, throws it all the time.
I haven't thrown it much anymore. They stopped biting that thing.
They never stop biting that thing.
Well, they don't bite it as good.
But the fact is typically with Todd, you could have, I could name like 10 things, and I didn't name a couple of them because he
That's
would
a whole
stab
bunch.
me.
Yeah,
No,
you
that
can't
isn't
say
a
it.
bunch.
It's a whole
A frog.
those people all watch. If they watch all my videos, dude, all my rods, you can't even walk on my front deck. They're all scattered all over the place and stuff. Plus, I leave them all on the front deck. Like, I don't care because chances are no one's even fishing around me doing the same thing. It doesn't even matter. I'm not like those other guys that just have like, live scope and freaking little wheelie worm on throwing it around all day long.
Wheelie worm. What is
Man,
that?
that's just going to be my new thing for all the little bitty worms they all throw. I don't even know what the heck they throw anymore. They're all about that big, and they all dink around at them.
I would love to see Todd get in the boat with a couple of these, super successful Japanese anglers that are throwing like little bugs and stuff. He'd be like, "What in the heck is that?"
Well,
I
it'd
gotta
be
see
great.
that.
What'd be great is when wherever we're at and they're throwing like 3.5 pound test line, and I'm throwing like 18 out there, and I promise you I'd be getting bit. And I'm like, look, man, it doesn't matter. I promise you, it hasn't mattered 20 years ago, and it doesn't matter today.
Todd loves the Ned.
The what?
Somebody's making fun of you. Didn't Todd just make a Ned video?
I did make a Ned rig video. It took me 3 years to make it. One of these days, I'm going to go back 3 years ago and show where I caught. Like, Andrew knows when I you were the one that kind of told me about the Ned rig.
Yeah, I took you out there the first time and did it on Rayburn in the grass.
Well, I knew about it before, but I didn't think you were going to throw it there. I've not done that since. I'm not going to go.
I haven't even done that since.
I'm not going to go throw it in the grass.
It was bad. Like, so long story short, we were fishing a deal. We were shooting a bunch of footage and stuff. It was during COVID, actually. And
they were schooling. Remember,
they
it
were
was
schooling,
phenomenal.
and they went down. And I just picked it because Strike King had sent me the new Ned head that we had in a 16th ounce size, a weedless one. And I would just throw it out there and reel it through them. And
like once they went under, like I was just throwing my freaking sexy dog out there, catching them every cast. And then they went under, and I'd be like waiting for him. And he throws. I'm like, there's grass right there. And he's like, got one. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so I had to watch him catch like 4 or 5. And I was like,
this is the best. Brother Ben came on there and said Ned Castledun. That might be a new nickname for you, Todd. Ned.
No, what's the other one? Is the
Spinning Rod Todd? That one came up a minute ago.
Very Wild Todd. Yeah, I like all that.
Spinning Rod Todd, yeah.
Dude, I was so late to the game on the Ned rig. Like, I tried it once and didn't catch anything. It took me years of listening to guys saying how good it is to really unlock the power.
That's why I never made a video on it for all these years, because I was like, and I was still unsure about it now. And everyone's like, well, what does it matter? I'm like, because when you go around, you look around, like you can throw that thing here and there randomly, especially in tournaments. Like you've got 3 and you're like, man, let me just make 2 casts right here. And then you've got 4 all of a sudden, right? Like you can catch one instantly and then move on. I was like, oh, it helped out.
And somebody said Tad Castaned.
I like that one. That one's a good one.
Todd, your YouTube videos put me to sleep, is what Eric Hartman said. I agree.
He loves them.
Hilarious.
I don't know where he is. I haven't caught up to that yet.
It's the newest comment.
Oh,
I just look at the newest ones.
Oh, that guy? Oh, no. Eric loves my YouTube videos, dude.
No,
I think he thumbs up them every single time. Like he
sounds like he listens to him right before bed.
Huh?
That is funny.
Yeah. Well, when he wakes up in the morning too, like you got to get.
Todd's videos leave me confused and ready to fight someone.
I will say that I really love that, because that's kind of my goal.
Jeez. My wife texted me and asked me how much longer our live was going to be today. I was like, I don't know. I said, you want to FaceTime me and be on live? And she said, no, I'm in a meeting. So.
Last week we went like 2.5 hours.
What?
Yeah, it was a long live.
Did we?
I did comment a few times, but
hours
I
or
wasn't
something.
sticking around for that long. It's hilarious. Todd gets on his rants, and it's really easy for him.
I've tried to like slow down my rants this one because there's a bunch of them that I could go off. Like there's a whole Bassmaster Open rant I could go off about. Yeah, there's a bunch. Nothing bad about the Bassmaster Opens, but like from all these tournaments, there's always things that you find out after the event, and then and you can't ever really say them publicly, but it would be phenomenal if we could. Like really, if we could just record the conversations that we have, right, on our phones about stuff. We would break the internet.
Are there any changes coming for those? Like, what are the rumors on the Opens for next year?
I have all the rumors.
See, and some people, I swear, some people just read people's minds and are like, I think maybe this guy's over here listening to conversations, or whatever, or he's figured out how to get through TikTok or social media, and you know what I'm saying when they put videos about stuff you're talking about. This guy got it right here.
I'm joining the chat.
Huh?
I'm joining the chat.
Look, if I slow down on the chat, dude, it goes, Surprised you guys are not day drinking.
I thought about it.
That's one way, yeah.
Thought about it.
Well, so I would, but I have to go pick Kane up from school and then coach his football team. So, it's not a very good idea. Not a very good combination.
We're going to have to do – there's a lot going on, right? Isn't it crazy how sometimes the fishing world stops for a little bit and then there's more stuff to talk about?
Dude, I just had a conversation the other day. I don't know. It was like literally talking about how nice it was not to have any sort of drama this off season. It was like last Wednesday. And then on Friday, my phone's blowing up with other anglers like, hey, are you hearing all this stuff? And I'm like, what? Why? Why do we have to have another year like this? Because it's been like, at least on the FLW MLF side, it's been like every year for the past, I don't know, 6-7 years. Even before MLF bought him, it was, like, is FLW going bankrupt or, blah, blah, blah. Like there was so much stuff. And then, before that it's just been, it would have been nice to have had a quiet off season, but what fun is that? We wouldn't be here talking about it now.
Let's start talking some real truths about the Opens. Well, one, you're not going to see what.
Are you ready for that?
I want to hear
I don't care. Like, dude, what? I don't care.
I'm gonna stay quiet on this. I think I know too much.
I know.
How would you know too much? It's all hearsay.
No.
Well,
I'll put it to you this way. I hear a lot of hearsay and stuff, but then, so there was. I'll put it to you this way. When I was fishing one of these tournaments a couple years ago, the guy who won. It was an odd win. Like, it was just an odd win. And next thing you know, I'll just say, like, there was a guy that showed up at a restaurant, and then the guy who won showed up at the restaurant too and had dinner. And it was a very odd thing. And I didn't know a lot of the people there, but the people I was with knew that group, and they were like, oh, come on. And so there's a lot of that going on. Where you hear the rumors, but then you kind of see it. And when you add the two together, it might be hearsay, but man, it sure does add up big time.
Well,
like, big time.
I will say this is somebody said that Vin said bunch of changes in Bass, nothing but silence. So Bass was supposed to release all the rules and everything this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, around in that range.
Yeah.
Now we're on Thursday. They're not going to release it late in the week. They don't release press releases that late typically. Now, unless it's an emergency deal or something like that, it's one thing. But they're typically an early of the week press release kind of company. And they don't release them at 7 o'clock at night. But one thing is for sure, I'm curious as to why they didn't. The only thing I can suspect is the fact that Major League Fishing released theirs 2 days ago. I don't know if they're making adjustments, making changes. It makes you wonder. I mean, this is all, speculative stuff, but like, it does make you wonder what is going on at Bass right now. Because I had some conversations with them. I can't say who I had conversations with, but I had some conversations with Bass, and I asked a lot of questions, and I got a lot of somewhat answers and some that whatever. But I did make the one point are the Opens going to mirror the Elite Series? And the overwhelming answer was no, it will not. And that answers a lot of questions for me, because that's going to answer the off limits question. That's going to answer gathering information, answer. That's going to answer a bunch of different questions right there within just that one question. Now they might cut us back to 2.5 days of practice, but still allow you to get information. The one thing that they made extremely clear to me was they were going to address the purchasing of information, because per Bass rules, they didn't have that in the Opens, which baffles me, because the rule, the way it reads, is you can't pay for or barter for information from other contestants, but not from.
Oh.
So what they were trying to say is like on day 2, if you were making a top 10 and you were in 8th place, you couldn't go over to Todd and say, hey man, the next tournament, I'll give you everything I got if you give me this 40 places that you have. It's basically eliminating that. But an angler, and I'm not singling anybody out, but an angler could go up in off limits. We have a 30-day off limits, and call up a guy and be like, hey, I give you $1,000 if you send me your best 15 waypoints and explain them. That was legal, 100% legal. And so they're trying to eliminate that aspect of things, which I applaud them for, thankfully, looking into that. The one thing that I did not ask a question, and I wish I had, is what are they going to do on the small boat? Because that all kind of got forgotten when the whole forward-facing sonar thing and all that.
I care more about. I
wonder, though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't care. I care more about the info deal.
The info deal is a big deal.
And how, I'm so lost on that because Andrew, if anyone really, Andrew will vouch for this. When I show up at some of these lakes, when I showed up at Eufaula and you're talking about something, I don't know. What are you even talking about? My trail on Eufaula just went the one way every day, just down this way, and I fished and then came back. If you put me somewhere else on the lake, I'd have got lost because I didn't know where I was
100%.
at. Because I don't even know anything when I show up to these freaking places. Zero. I don't even know who I would call. Much less I could care. Apparently I don't work hard enough because I don't go out there and hustle and try to call people up. And dude, I get so many people message me stuff. I think anyone that on here would be like, yeah, Todd's never replied to any of those messages. Hey, if you ever need some help when you come up here, I'm like, yeah, I don't want any. I throw the same stupid things all the time anyway, so it's not going to help.
I said.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're not out there throwing what I'm throwing, I'm sure not going to probably do what you're doing. So I don't really care about any of that stuff. But because I had some messages yesterday because when Matt with Panger, not you, Matt was Panger was talking on BTL, my name got brought up, and I think it was him and Kyle Austin got to talking about the Opens and some this whole subject, which got me kind of riled up. And I was like, well, why did my name get brought up in any of this? So I listened to it for a little bit, and a guy had commented like this, I guess, and was like, didn't Bradley Hallman hire Todd Castledine as a guide
On
before
Rayburn.
the Open, and I was going, and so Matt read it, and I called up Matt yesterday. I'm like, dude, you did a horrible job, like talking about that. Like I ripped on Matt yesterday, and because my wife was listening to it, and my wife could care, like she might know who Andrew Upshaw is. Obviously, she's met Andrew, but she could care less about fishing. Like she knows like Watson, Luke Duncan, Holman, Andrew, Hackney. But for the most part, she could care less. So she's listening and she's like, "Who is that guy?" And I'm like, "That's Matt." She's like, "Whose show is he on?" I'm like, "It's his show." Well, yeah, but he knows y'all. I'm like, "I know. I don't know why he's doing a horrible job explaining, because he read it and then didn't discount any of it. Just started talking about like this other thing, and she was furious, and I was laughing, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna freaking call up Matt," and I did. I called him up. We talked yesterday. He's like, "No, man, I just assumed everyone knew that was whatever." I'm like, "Well, you did a horrible job explaining," and I was like, one, I don't, because my wife's like, "Hey, where's all that money from that guiding you do?" And I'm like, "Yeah, apparently I've been hiding it from you since I haven't had a guide trip on Rayburn in like 8 years," and I was like, I have no idea. But Hallman called me up probably like a month and a half before, and we got a camp on Rayburn. He's like, "Hey, can I come down there and practice before the Open? Stay at your camp." I'm like, "Yeah, just holler at me what day it is. I'll go practice." I haven't been on Rayburn in 3 or 4 months. Like, I haven't been on Rayburn since the last Toyota event in May. So I haven't been on Rayburn in however many months that is, 5 months. So, but before then, I hadn't been on Rayburn. So I was like, yeah, man, I wouldn't mind going out to Rayburn and practicing a couple days too before the Open. We're talking like a month and a half. There was no off limits at the time. It was like a month and a half early. I said, "Yeah, come on down." And I was like, "Just let me know. I haven't seen her in a couple months. Like, we'll hang out at the camp." And so one of those days, I was like, we were bored. I'm like, "Hey, you want to hop in the boat? Let's just go out there and just go fish together, because we don't ever get to do that." And he's like, "Yeah." So we spent the day out on the water fishing together, hanging out. Half the time he was like hanging out, like sitting down, and we were just friends. Me and Andrew do this all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
So I was like, "Matt, you did a horrible job that you didn't actually discount the fact that I'm not a guide. He didn't pay me to come down there. Like, we've known each other for 17 years or something." And I was like, I think wherever we fished, we laughed about it, because we were like, "Did you ever go back to any of those places?" Like, neither one of us went to any of those places where we fished. And Andrew knows, he caught most of his fish on day 2 in the creek. Y'all two fished. Like, people don't realize Andrew and him fished a team circuit down there one year. He was like, "No, I caught them all in that creek that me and Andrew caught them in." But it was just, I just laughed at all this. Like, I can't believe people are actually, I can't believe fishermen. And I guess we're going to call them pros. I don't know how you call someone
where you're going with this, and you really can't believe it, because I 100% can.
How can you call yourself a pro fisherman?
But it don't matter. That don't matter to them.
Not only pay people to give you information about fishing, but I've always been under the, like, in my opinion, if you got to go get a whole bunch of information for tournaments, like, I don't think we should be called professional fishermen. If we need to get help from other people to help us catch fish, then people shouldn't be like, this whole info thing blows my mind, because I'm just like, nowhere else in the world would that, in any other sport, would that happen. Like, Michael Jordan's like, "Hey man, why don't you come help me, teach me how to play basketball?" I mean, I know they have coaches, but there's a difference.
No, actually, you'd be surprised how much that happens.
What?
Where those basketball players all get together, and just basketball as a reference. Because, like, I remember watching a video about Kobe was talking about it, and all the others would try to come to him to learn from him.
Yeah.
But he wasn't using them to learn from.
I'm fine with y'all. Like, I'm fine with guys, like, if y'all two, like, "Hey, I'm coming up there, like, let's get together and go fishing." That's fine with that. But there's a difference between stalking someone on Facebook and then, like, trying to get them. That's what I'm saying. It just, they're getting help from other professionals, not from, like, I don't know. I have a whole different thought about all that. So
what is the rule for the Opens right now? You have 30-day off limit?
Yeah, but it's not really
you can't get info.
I have no idea. I don't ever even.
The rule is, the way it reads is, you can't be on the water for 30 days, but you can basically talk to anybody you want to.
You can get info anytime, like up
right up to the tournament?
Up until like
Or
the
practice?
official practice starts, and then you
Yeah.
can't talk to anybody. But
So you think they're going to change that or not change that?
I know there's a lot of anglers pushing to have them change that, but I don't foresee them changing it. I think the only thing that they remotely could change or will change, I think you're obviously going to see them where you can't hire guides probably after like January 1st, which is definitely needs to happen.
Or info for money.
Or info for any kind of bartering, like, hey, if you give me this, I'll give you that. I mean, same thing. I think they'll eliminate that. What I would like to see them do is to go to practice where it's 2.5 to 3.5 days instead of 5 days of practice.
Well, Kyle Austin brought that up, and I've always, like, I'm with Kyle on this, but I wanted to be like, hey, Kyle, hey, dude, you're welcome. Because forever it was those guys were out there 3 weeks freaking.
Oh,
I said, do you understand? Like, that rule changed because I don't want to say because of me, but he definitely. Well,
it was because of Todd. Because Todd was getting all the
Hank
info.
told me, he said, when you made that comment, and it was when y'all did live, he said, man, and then me and him talked about it. I said, dude, please change it. And he's like, yeah, man, that was pretty much one of the reasons why we changed it to at least. 5 days was not what I wanted. I wanted 3, but I was like, 5 is way better than than nothing. So I was like, dude, it took all these years for him to at least go to an off limits and have a 5-day practice. I'm with Kyle. I wish it was 3. But yeah, dude, you're welcome. Cause like you got to do baby steps. And that was like a huge one. And I appreciate
it almost is worse though by making it 5, because then it feels like it forces everyone to be there 5 days.
Yeah, but there were guys out there for 2 weeks, man. Like you know what I'm saying? And I didn't, my whole point to this, and Kyle brought this up too. It was like, hey man, we are killing this lake. Like we're all these guys are out there. They don't know how to practice. They shake, they freaking hook the stuff, all this different stuff. And I'm like, I'm always under the impression is if your entire goal for the opens and it was to try to make the elites, then make it more like what happens when you get to the elites. So I always said that, and Andrew brought up the whole boat thing. I was like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like it should mirror the elites to it as much as possible. I know they can't, there's certain things they can't. I'm sure there's reasons why, but there should, if you're trying to get them there, like I always was mad at MLF for allowing you to throw an Alabama rig to qualify for the tour. Yeah. And then in the tour, you can't throw one. And I was like, well, wait a minute. So now some guy who just throws an Alabama rig for 3 events qualifies for the tour and now is on the tour and he can't throw one. I was like, aren't you kind of missing the purpose of like getting the guys who should qualify? Good or bad about the Alabama rig, have it one way or the other, but don't make it to where all of a sudden you get there and the rule changed for you. So I was always, I'm in favor of the mirroring the elites as much as possible if you can. Doesn't have to be totally
well, but then, and that's what they made a lot of changes to mirror the elites, like with 9 tournaments and spreading it all across the country. So you would think that they would make the rules the same as well.
And I think they got better fishermen because I think I'll put it to this point: better fishermen or not, I think they got fishermen that are more prepared to fish the elites. As in, and I'm not talking about their skill, that they're used to the traveling. They have the money. They're not going to like probably bail out after, like the worst thing you can do in this tournament trail stuff is to have these guys with these dreams of making it and they get there and then 5 tournaments in, they can't finish the season because they don't have enough money. So right or wrong, I'd rather a guy not get freaking in, 100,000 in debt trying to go fish the elites when chances are that's going to happen in the opens. And so,
you don't know, Todd.
Huh?
What?
Well, you're not fishing them next year, right, Todd?
What?
All 9?
No,
I didn't fish them all of it. I only fished them one. I fished them one time. I made the top 10 in the whatever, but they were only taking 3. Whatever. I was like, all right, I don't know. It just wasn't really a big deal for me. And I don't get, I'll be honest with you. I see through the industry and through sponsors and people talking, and every year it's the same thing. They are going less. The tournament fisherman is less and less. It's not what it used to be 25 years ago. The higher level deal, and so and there's plenty of examples that show that. And so it's I don't know if it's going to go get better or worse, but I just don't think you need that anymore. And I don't know. Do I have a bigger following now that, or even if that matters? Like, I don't know. Could I make more money? Maybe, maybe not.
Probably not.
Well, what on the elites or the other? I mean, I actually looked at the schedule of the invitationals, Matt, and thought, and I was like, man, because I mean, I qualified. I got the email the other day.
Oh, did you get it? The early entry?
For the what?
The open.
Invitation.
Yeah, well, I got the early entry.
Oh,
for
yeah,
the
you got
open.
the invitationals.
But I also, you know, I qualified for the.
Hey, you're going to invitationals, aren't you? Wasn't that like part of your big? Didn't you announce that you were going to the invitationals?
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out how to fish the opens with the schedule. I don't know how I'm going to do that. My schedule is kind of weird, so I might just have to do. I can do the last one. Possibly, but if I do, I kind of screw Russell on an event or two. So I got to figure out how I'm going to do that.
I'm gonna probably fish a team series next year, on top of the opens. Brandon Belt stuff. Coming for you, Todd. Coming for your angler of the year. Just gonna wreck it.
That's not true.
I just wish we had tournaments like that back home.
Come on down here, man. Just move back here.
Dude, it's like 45 degrees out right now. I'm ready to move south.
Oh my gosh.
I would do it in a heartbeat.
Man, don't come to Texas.
Why not? That's where everyone's going.
Are they?
Oh yeah, everyone goes to Texas.
I go to like Alabama or something.
Well, the opens aren't coming to Texas.
No, I know it's like one of the biggest fishing states that there is, but we're not going. Actually, a big portion of the lakes in Texas right now are extremely low. Like the Central Texas lakes, Southern lakes. They're really, really low. Toledo Bend's low right now. So
yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's all good. Fishing's good, man. Toledo, I mean, not Toledo, but just Texas lakes are just really good for the most part. You can catch them just about year round on all of them.
Me and Andrew are going Monday.
Yeah, we are. We're gonna go shoot a show.
Am I allowed to talk about that?
Yeah, you can talk about it. I mean, no big deal. And we're gonna go shoot a show on Monday on Rayburn together.
He's like, he goes, hey Todd,
Ned rigging, Ned rigging grass.
No. He goes, what do you know about it? I'm like, I don't know. I was out there in May. I was like, I haven't been. I'm like, oh, we'll catch him. I was like, we'll figure something out.
I was like, what are we gonna go do? And he's like, I don't know, we'll throw top water around.
I did. I was like, we're gonna throw top water, dude. We'll smoke on them.
It'll be all right though. I mean that you can go to Rayburn and do, especially what is October? Oh my gosh,
top water. It's October and there's grass. We're gonna go smash them.
Yeah.
Or
you want to talk about fun, Matt? Like you go to Rayburn. Like it really starts about the last week of September, depending on how cool, first couple cold fronts that come through. But like from there all the way to like through November, if you pick some of the right days, can be just some of the most fun topwater days you've ever had. Like and big ones too, like really big ones.
I've been to Rayburn, I think four times. I've cashed 3 of the 4 times, and I still feel like I have no clue what I'm doing out there.
Oh man, like I still don't have any clue what I'm doing. I've fished for years.
I've never gotten into like crazy good fishing. Every time I've cashed, I found one little spot, and I would catch like my limit out of that spot, and it was enough to basically cash a check out of.
That just goes to show you how many bass are in Rayburn. That on top of the fact that they have like 4 tournaments every weekend from starting in January through about September, and people still catch big bags all the time. It's crazy how that works.
I'll just let Andrew do that.
Let's see. So basically, you're the elite should only pertain to the tax bracket you were born into, Todd. Wait, what?
I know. Is he like to know what tax bracket I was born into? I would love to let him know.
You don't want no. I mean, Todd's kind of the opposite on that. Like,
yeah, I'm the exact. That's why I brought this. I'm the exact opposite of this comment. I don't understand where that came from, but yeah, I was pretty much born into the lowest tax bracket ever. Or I guess, and I don't want. I guess maybe he was talking about the guys that are fishing the elites. It's better for them. I don't agree with it, but I'm saying it's better for the organization and all of them that they do it to 9 events. You're going to get a better fisherman, and you're going to get a more well-rounded fisherman that can travel and do all that stuff. Listen, if that's the case, I'd be fishing all 9 of them. I don't agree with it, though. I don't agree with fishing all 9 of them. I don't have the money to go waste. So yeah, I'm in the lower tax bracket. That's why I'm not fishing the opens. If I had all the money in the world, I'd be fishing 9 opens because I wouldn't have a care in the world. It's where a lot of those guys went and did this year that made it. No offense, it didn't matter whether they cashed a check or not, probably.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny stat.
I don't. This guy must not know me, but pretty much that goes against everything that I am. Is everything about this comment?
Well, it's funny. I was watching Bass University, and they had JT Tompkins on there, and he said the last 6 years he's put 700 hours on his motor every single year. To put that into perspective of how often that kid is fishing, and I say kid because he's still in his 20s, how often that kid is fishing. I know guides that guide all the time that never put more than about 500 hours on their boat.
Everything was a business to me. Yeah, when I was so like I can't not look at it from that way. But when I fish tournaments, and I still that's why I'm not fishing all 9 opens. When I fished tournaments when I was younger, I would sit there and go, how many days am I going to go practice? I could go practice when I wanted to, but I chose not to because I always looked at it as like, okay, I'm going to have to buy some water and some things, right? And that was going to be like $12. And then gas. And I knew exactly how much it cost me to get to Rayburn because I lived an hour away, over like almost, And so I viewed it as, well, if I went 5 days, I'm going to spend close to Independent, and Rayburn's big. So if I actually wanted to drive around, I would spend this much money. And then the entry fee was this much money. And then if I got a check, depending on where the check fell, right, 1st through 20th, where I broke even, right, or did I make $100? Or if I didn't practice all those days, I would make more money. And when you're trying to when $50 is a lot to you, which it is and still is, I was like, okay, well, so I learned to practice with minimal days because I wanted to make more money if I actually got a check. So it's why I don't fish the opens, because I'm like, man, none of it adds up to me. However, the way they're doing it for their business, right, they're going to get a better quality of fishermen that can travel around, has a lot more money. I didn't say it's not for the guys that make a lot of money or make a lot of money, have a lot of money, given a lot of money, whatever you want to call it. They're going to be better off for getting those guys, because to be honest with you, half of the rants I go off of is trying to tell people, hey, don't do this. They all tell you the success stories. Bass and MLF do great jobs of telling you all the success stories, and then leave out the hundreds of guys with credit card debt and all these things that were phenomenal fishermen that just didn't make it, even if they did good. And they're not fit. Like, dude, we can start naming off names and people were like, who's that guy? We're like, dude, that guy fished against us for 6 years. And all of a sudden he just silent. Like he's not fishing anymore. And it's not like they're fishing back home. They just don't even and I'm like, no, I mean, I try to protect those guys that like, like Mitch said, there's a dark side of fishing. And we try to enlighten some people about all this. It's literally what the whole show was about, man, y'all just see the changes, but it's going to affect a ton of professional fishermen, these changes. Like guys aren't going to have jobs. And I don't remember that being in the brochure about all these dreams and things like that. Like, oh, by the way, we're going to cut y'all. Some of y'all are just going to get cut. See you later. So I don't know what that guy was talking about.
The failure rate in fishing.
He wanted to rant. That guy just wanted me to rant.
You went on a good rant. Just for clarity.
It's funny. I got a message that says, gosh, Todd is really good about talking in circles.
Because I have to bring it all back around to the guy who can't figure out that, like.
Just for clarity, I have 92 hours on my motor this year.
Oh, I got all y'all beat.
And my boat is still for sale. If anyone is looking for a skeeter.
Good. Mine is too. What is your hours, Todd?
60.1.
Oh man.
God, I fish more than you, Todd.
You idled more than me or drove more than me.
What? How many do you have, Andrew?
Got 238.
Oh.
Yeah. I've fished a lot this year. I mean, I spent a lot of time, but I did a lot of TV shows too. I mean, there was a lot of that was TV and running places and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah. I will say this.
Yeah. Hey, somebody actually, it was,
I know.
Somebody said there was a drinking game for him when Todd goes, yeah.
Yeah, I realized that. The guy who won, though, I happened to look for like on Instagram or something, and it came across like some videos and stuff. And I was like, look at this kid, man. He didn't have no jersey on or nothing. He was just out there. And he won. That's the success story they're going to tell you. And then the guy that finished like 13th that made like $3,000 lost money in the event and is now not fishing next year. They didn't interview that guy. Just the guy who won. But then the other 10 guys that didn't have money or they weren't fit, they're not being talked about.
How much did he win?
What did you win 50, right? Around 50?
What?
50,000 for an open?
I don't know. I haven't won one, so I don't know what it is.
So after taxes, he took home like 35 grand.
No, he took home 50. If he's a fisherman, he's got about $40,000 worth of right. What is it? Yeah. He had at least.
He's still in the hole, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if he fished all 9 opens, and I don't know, well, did he? I wonder if he fished how many he fished.
I doubt he fished all 9.
Hopefully, he fished.
He qualified for the elites.
Huh?
He qualified for the elites, didn't he?
Did he? The guy who won? No, the guy who won didn't.
The guy who won? Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, that would be a pretty sad thing that if he had to win the last one, qualify, or he wasn't going to fish next year, and he was still in the top 10 to do it. You know what I'm saying? That's not a great thing. But if he fished the other 2 in that division, hopefully he did. And there's another 10,000 for the classic minimum.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Let's see. I can tell you right now. It was Matt Messer who won the tournament, and no, he did not make it to the elites.
I wonder if he fished all 3. I hope so, man.
What is it? Division? I can't. The one thing I hate that they did is they made it like Division 1, Division 2, and all that stuff. Because now, I mean, they took it away from like Northern, Central, Southerns.
Oh, there it is.
42,000. So I'm thinking about fishing some of those northern events in the opens. I can just sign up for individual ones, right? and then hopefully get selected, or is that no?
Yeah, it's going to depend. I mean, early in the season, it's almost next to impossible to get into most of them.
Yeah.
Just for the fact that people are, especially like the more popular ones too, the more that are all signed up EQ guys, the more full they're going to be. But as the year progresses, it's way easier to get in any of them you want. I mean, it just depends what time of year they are. But
And you can sign up for just one,
yeah,
or two.
you can sign up for one or two, whatever. If it's a later in the season one, you won't get into one or two if you're early.
No, it would be like Leech Lake and Mississippi River.
You don't want to fish
maybe St.
those
Clair.
because I was just going to call you and get a bunch of info and get a bunch of waypoints and stuff.
Well,
But
you just have to you know what
I'll
you
pay
need.
him. I'll pay him.
Yeah.
You
What if
gotta
I pay him
him.
now before the rules come out?
Yes, no, you pay him now
Oh.
before you sign up.
That's
Apparently,
it.
See,
Yeah.
this is the way these guys think.
Yeah.
That like you get around enough of these guys, that's how they do it.
Dude,
But
how
it's
like
funny how we don't
it's
think
already-
that way, but like if you get in the ahead of these guys that do it, that's the way they think.
what do you think they're paying though? Because like I'm sitting here going,
The numbers
I
I
mean,
got,
you're already dropping money for the entry fee.
I got
What,
way more
500?
than that. What?
$5,000?
I heard way more than that.
Shut up.
Heard way more than that.
I mean, I don't know, dude. That's not true. You're saying per tournament.
I think it
Why
was.
are you guys are both
I
speechless?
think it was situationally based. So like it was there was a couple tournaments that the rumor, and it's all rumor based crap. The rumor is that there was a couple tournaments, the ones that were really hard, or like there was like a super awesome local that
Depends on the local.
They shelled out some money, some pretty big money.
You couldn't pay me enough to like, I'll help out a buddy. Like I have no problem. Like Matt, if you called me up and you couldn't, I'm like, I'd help you out. No big deal. I would never, I would never take $1 from someone, nor would I ever like, nah, screw you. I used to get a lot of phone calls about Rayburn. I get zero now. Zero.
Yeah. Well,
no one will ever call me because I never did help really anyone. Because I'm like, man,
I mean, the thing is, I've got Todd.
My buddies wouldn't,
and I don't even call Todd. I don't even.
Like,
I mean,
my buddies wouldn't. Like my best friends wouldn't act like the guy. Like Hackney. Hackney's never asked me a single thing about Rayburn in his entire life, right? Nor would he. So like the guys that I know, the guys that are really good fishermen that I'm friends with, they would never ask. It's always these other guys that I'm not friends with. I'm like, really? You thought I was going to help you? Like, I know all these other people. I'm going to help them more than I would ever help you. But dude, I'm telling you, no one ever asked.
Dude, if I get information, it just screws with my head.
Yeah.
Like the handful of times I've ever talked to anyone about a lake, it's like I end up not chasing the fish I want to fish for. Like now I do, like Todd, what you mentioned earlier is exactly what I do. I show up to the lake. Like I don't even know where the boat ramp is if it's a new body of water. 100%. Show up to the lake and just go driving around.
I cannot. Smith Lake was my number one. Is we had a when we were there, me and you were talking about last week about being on Smith. We had a private boat ramp at the house we were staying at. So we just put in there, and I talked to Russell later. He's like, yeah, I had a bunch of bites today. So it might have been like day 2 of practice. He's like, I had some bites today. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, just right up from the boat ramp. I'm like, oh yeah, I hit that on day 1 because I just dropped the trolling motor down. I looked around and I'm like, this looks just like anywhere else. What do I know? So I can't tell you how many times I just literally, there's a couple of them. Pickwick was one where I put in, and I had heard that there was grass on the north end of like on the other end. So I started I found out later there was grass all over the stupid place, but I didn't know that. So I just drive and I was like, just don't stop driving, Todd, until I don't know. And I just kept driving. And then like 10 minutes later, I'm like, this looks good. And I literally caught most of my fish within, 2 to 3 miles of that little area. But yeah, other than that, I think you have to do it a little bit on like some Florida lakes. But for the most part, I just start putting in, just start fishing somewhere. But most of these, that's on a new lake. Most of these lakes a lot of them I've been to before.
I just don't understand how you justify putting that type of money. Like, maybe it's because I view it as a business right now,
Dude.
and not necessarily like I have to get to the elites. But I don't understand. Like, I don't understand. I have a hard enough time justifying fishing, say the invitationals, where you're slapping down 5,000 with the goal to be in the top 50 out of 150 to win an $8,000 check. Like, after expenses and stuff, you maybe make $1,000 for that week worth of work, which is not good. Which is not good pay. If you start paying people for information, you're coming out of their.
They don't care. It's not money though. Like, none of it is money with them. Listen,
well, that's what I'm saying. So it's just a matter of trying to get to the next level.
Well, no, it's not even. Well, I guess
they look at it as an investment.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they look at it as we're investing, we're spending this money to almost try to guarantee ourselves into XYZ, whatever. It's an investment. That's all it is.
Well, what's the rule on the elites though? You can't get info once the schedule's out, right?
No, you can't get info once the schedule's released.
I totally believe more about what it is. Not an investment, dude. If you're investment, people who make money invest money. That's an investment. People who make money invest money.
Mm-hmm.
Someone had to go work for that money. I have no idea. I'm just like, listen, it's some of these guys on the comments get it. Okay. Here's my question. And this is a legit question. And maybe I'm not that good about this. How is it possible to be 25 years old, buy an $80,000 boat, have $50,000 worth of, I can say this because the truck, everyone has vehicles. No one talks about vehicles. It's when I qualified for the elites, I had like a 7-year-old freaking single cab Dodge. They have trucks and boats nicer than me. They're 25 or 26 years old. I'm not knocking them. Look at this guy. Here we go. I'm being honest. Not that. Here we go. Right there. How physically can you be 25 and have worked to get to where you're at a point to do that without, and then be that good of a fisherman for where you get to fish? Pretty much, like, we all know how much it takes to become a good fisherman, like the hours on the water. So you had to be fishing from that, let's say 18 to 25 somewhere. What job was this? And I missed out on, because how? I know how. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that's what it is. I'm just asking. Say it's not parents' money. I'm asking. Everyone's saying, I understand everyone's saying it's, I'm with y'all. I'm being sincere right now. What job would allow you to do that? Other than that.
Well, that's
that
true.
one, OnlyFans 100% would do it.
So like, and
Dude,
I'm not knocking anyone getting help like that. Okay, it's not a big deal. But that is what I'm saying is that it's not some investment, because, dude, when you invest and do all that stuff, most of the guys that really think about the money, like Matt and me and you, we did that because we had to make it in this industry. We had to do the pros versus the cons. It wasn't like, hey, you want to go make the elites? Here's money, go do it. Like, go do it without any thought process of, like, you have nothing else to worry about. Some guys, I don't know who it was talking about the fact of going, man, these young kids look so relaxed when they fish. Like they've got one more event, they're going to qualify for the elites, and they're fishing relaxed. And I'm like, yeah, I would too if it really didn't matter. Like, no offense, like, And I've always talked about, man, I used to freaking put my rent money on the line in college and go fish tournament, which I highly, highly don't suggest. Like it was, but dude, I fished for years with scared out of my mind if I didn't catch them. And it wasn't because I was worried about ego. So I was just trying to I needed to check. As I'm getting older, it's not that now, it's probably more of an ego thing. Like I want to catch them because during the term, I want to catch them just to catch them. Now, when I get home, I could care less about the trophy or any of that stuff. I just want that check, to be honest with you. I don't know.
It's a different world.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know. Hey, listen, I get it. Strike King, I work for, dude, I didn't get a job till I didn't get with them till
I didn't get a job until I was 40.
Well, I had a lot of jobs when I was younger. What I was saying, I never had an actual true job until later, but I didn't get that till like 3 years ago.
Did you work at Domino's?
Worked at Papa John's.
Papa John's, that's what it was.
From my sophomore year in college through college into being and I don't mind talking about this. I remember my buddies graduating and everyone's graduated. I'm still working at Papa John's trying to fish and for years. And I was delivering and I was a manager and I kept the job because it was the one job I could at least make some money when I wasn't fishing. And I'd worked there so long I could get off anytime I wanted to. So I never worked weekends. So they would let me off to fish tournaments. And I did that for a long time, well into my 20s. And trust me, none of that was, who cares now? Dude, embarrassing. I was embarrassed at times that I was that old with pretty much, I was 12 hours short of graduating college because I was fishing so much and I kind of had to stop going to, I couldn't do it all. I had to throw one of those things out and college really wasn't, I'm 12 hours short of graduating. I never actually graduated. But my point was, yeah, I had to. That was what I had to do. So I can talk about that stuff. So when the guy writes a comment going, you were born in the wrong tax bracket, yeah, you want to hear me get off ranting.
Wow. There's always somebody that's going to try to bring you down. Can you still make a good pizza? No. He makes a good chicken.
Yeah. So I rolled in there the other day with my kids and my wife. It's probably about a year ago. And I knew one of them that was still there. And it was late at night. I said, hey, don't care if I make it. They're like, yeah, come on back here. So I went back there and made it all. My kids thought it was the coolest thing in the world because I was, whatever, spinning it and doing all that. So whatever.
In college, we had a buddy that worked at a Papa John's. We used to, you'd call them up right before they close, place an order for pickup, and then never come pick it up. So you'd get to bring it home then.
Dude, the pizzas?
Yeah, we would order a pizza, I don't know, an hour before close or something, not go pick it up. And then because it was left there and you guys had to, or Papa John's had to close, he would take the pizza and bring it back to the house.
We ate pizzas. I ate pizzas every night for 8 years.
And Mitch just made a really good comment. Andrew is minutes away from his son not getting picked up from school or making football practice. And it's a very interesting point because I do have to leave. I already told Todd I was going to have to leave eventually to go get my kid. So, guys, I will see y'all later. I appreciate y'all having me on. Y'all can continue your spiel about pizzas and Papa John's.
I want Cerebral to freaking message me. Message me on Instagram or Facebook, and I'll shoot you my address. I think it will. I think.
See ya.
I don't know how to do this. How do you leave?
Look at him. He doesn't know how to get out. Oh, watch this. Here. Oh,
I just.
Hold on. I got you. Look, watch this. Watch this. Look, he can't do anything about it. I can. Oh, okay. Look, he's back.
I gotta figure out how to do StreamYard. I just
like it.
use YouTube's live stream thing.
I like the live stuff, man, where you can interact with the live stuff's the hardest, man. You talked about it. Because you don't know what your day's going to look like. And I never want to post stuff and say, hey, me and Matt are going to go at 12 o'clock. And then Matt's like, hey man, my wife just called. I got to go do, or things pop up and then everyone's waiting at 12. We don't do it. But the live stuff and interacting with everyone is, dude, I crack up at the comments, man. Some of them are great. Mitch is going to have to go back and listen to the beginning.
Yeah. But the only way I can guarantee myself in, Mitch, is to take a top 10. That's the only guarantee method. Other than that, I need help.
Yeah. Well, probably. So I leave next Friday to Table Rock for the Toyota Championship, which, by the way, like, I can talk about MLF and bass stuff. To this day, the Toyotas are the freaking in my opinion, still the number one tournament trail for your money.
100%.
And and I've always said that. Like so, as much negativity as I will say about certain things, I will always give people props. Like the Brandon Belt Trail, go look at what kind of money they're giving away for a team event. It's crazy the amount. Like, they're losing money to pay us. So like, it's the number one. That's the number one team trail in the country, because they're literally the numbers don't add up. We're paying in this much entry fee, and they're giving out way more.
Yeah.
And they had a championship for a team trail that gave away $100,000 for first. They're giving away $50,000 for first in every single event.
What's the entry fee?
$1,200.
Holy cow.
Split between, like, you know what I'm saying?
And
it's guaranteed payback. Doesn't matter how many people show up. I think they're going to do that again next year. But so I'm going to go fish in a Toyota Championship for first place is $200,000 for free. Yeah. And all I had to do was fish 3 events. I had to fish 3 events and make a top 25, I believe, to get there.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer. Like the BFLs are not great unless you can make the All-American. Like, that's where but man, the All-American is tough.
Even didn't that go downhill a little bit? The All-American? I
haven't looked at it yet. I know a buddy of mine this week, it started today for him. I think he's on Lake Norman, I believe. I think so. Their regional is there, so he'll have to make I think the regional, you still might get a boat or something. I don't know what they give away in the All-American, but it was like $100,000, I think. I know the year I made it, Marcus Sikora made it, and then did he get? I don't know if they used to give like a year's worth of whatever into the FLW tour, but maybe that was for the TBF. I'm not sure, but the Toyotas are the best bang for your buck, no doubt. They usually schedule lakes close to your home. You know, you don't have to travel that much. You only got to fish 3 of them, make the championship. I've made the top 10 the last 2 years. If you make the top 10, it's a guaranteed $10,000. And then they put in on top of that, if you're the highest finisher from your division. So last year, no one from my division made the top 10. So I automatically won another $10,000.
Yep.
So, I've banked off the last 2 years of
that's good.
Those championships. So, like, yeah, living the dream package. I don't know if that was TBF, but I know it was TBF did it if you won that deal, but I don't know if it was here it is.
Yep.
Yeah, so you automatically got a check. I assume, and everything's paid for. I don't know if it's the same way. I assume it is. But we definitely got when I did it, they gave you a boat, so we fished out of a Ranger.
Yeah.
They put you up. Everything was free. The gas was free. The food was free. Where you stay, like, all you had to do was drive there. And I think they even paid you a per diem for driving there.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's changed though by now.
Yeah, it might have. It was pretty cool back then, but
yeah.
Well, you down for next week?
Yeah, I should be able to do next
If
week.
not, we'll get this ain't gonna stop. We're gonna keep doing it. There's some other stuff we'll get into.
Yeah, let me know and we'll figure something out.
We'll get
Hopefully we didn't get into trouble today.
No, I think we just talked about stuff. I don't think anything was bad. But all right.
Cool, man.
Until next time.
All right. See ya.
All right.
Later. Don't pull me.